The Ostervillle Library is glad to be hosting Judith Partelow. She's going to be doing readings from her book, Passion, Provocation. Thank you all for being here. Hi, Judith.
Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. And Passion and Provocation is really a collection of poems that I've written over many years, probably 30 to 40 years, and many very new. But I wanted to have a collection of sort of the poems that really take you through my life, essentially. And I just wanted it as kind of a legacy, as it were. You know, I went through my poems and I was looking for things that I thought might work in a book. This is what happened. It came into existence, 154 poems in my book, and it's been received very well. I'm really pleased. So I hope you enjoy, and I have quite a little list here, and so you can say stop or whatever. I can't take any more. But I might as well just read some of the ones that I plan to read and see how it goes. So and if you have any questions, please, you know, raise your hand and ask me, because we could, you know, stop in the middle and I could kind of tell you where it came from or something like that. I will pause in between them because I know people really need to have a little bit of time to let it sink in before you go on to the next one. So I thought the first one I'm going to read in honor of being at the Ostervillle Village Library, which I appreciate very much. I'm very grateful that you have invited me to read here. And I've been a book lover all my life. I used to have to walk very far to the library when I was about 11, 12, something like that, in Philadelphia. And it was a beautiful library, and that's when I really fell in love with libraries. So so it's sort of my dream, and I now do live within walking distance of the Dennis Village Library, so I was very happy about that. All right, so this one is called Reading. Under a yellow lamp that sheds warm light on my book, I sit in a cozy chair reading, breathing softly. Sounds of raindrops on the window pane and pages turning. I could be Lincoln or Edison, the Pope, a missionary, a farmer, an engineer, a fireman, a veterinarian, or anybody who is lucky enough to know how to read. But I'm just me, who has a gray day and a cozy chair in which to sit quietly under warm light, turning pages, breathing softly, reading about some other kind of life. Now, because we live near the beach on Cape Cod and the ocean, I'm going to read something that tells something about my life on Cape Cod, anthology. I keep jars of multicolored glass found on scattered beaches where I walk, a collection of colors, the gathering of which joins the jagged edges of the past and holds them safely in a bottle on my shelf. Pieces of pottery intrigue most, broken cups and saucers, dishes and tureens, the wares of women spilling off the waves. I lost my place. Faded patterns of a woman's dreams. The crockery seized and smashed that once was filled, then washed and wiped and gently placed upon the board. Sorry, I know that so well, and then I kind of forgot it. But, all right, so,
I like that line, the wares of women.
oh, thank you, and thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think of that when I find these things on the beach, you know, where were they before? So, and I imagine like a long time ago. All right, so this one, it's called a split second. And for those of you who may have had a fall at one time or another and broke a bone, particularly women, because that was my experience, perhaps you can relate. A split second. There's a split second between a misstep and the moment you land splat on your face, when you know you have lost control. You scream, no, but it doesn't change a thing. As you fly forward, you see your future clearly. Everything you planned for this day and coming months is gone. You wish the clock could turn back just an instant where you would look more carefully and cheerfully continue on your way. But you cannot turn it back. You cry out in pain and shame. You appear to be just some old woman who falls, who cannot move forward or stand up because her bones have shattered to pieces in an instant. Shock, trauma, regrets, shame, pain converge in a split second that will grow longer and linger and seed itself in your memory and your body, a scene to play over and over and over.
More upbeat tone, please.
Okay, oh, let's see, all right, how about celebrating marriage? For people that maybe have been married a long time, or maybe this is their second or third marriage, so. That is the case in my case, celebrating marriage. We've just begun, though both of us have been there twice before. Spending a quiet night alone or buying groceries for our evening meal, a holiday. Throwing socks in the dryer, making the bed we've slept in, what joy. Reading a book, writing a poem, having dessert, watching a movie on TV with someone close by who is loved and loves us. This is the peace each of us has longed for. No trip to Europe or nightclub date could possibly match this sedentary contentment. Finally, being together is everything. Let's see.
Socks in the dryer.
Yeah, go ahead.
Socks in the dryer.
Yeah. All right, here's one for all of the waiters and waitresses that work so hard, particularly in the summer on Cape Cod. Diner dance. Stoop and sway, 2 cups of coffee on the way. Sashay to the right, looks like a long and busy night. Slide to the left, 3 more swoop in. Ring up the bill, I'm staying trim. A cheerful smile, watch out, it's hot. A graceful turn with coffee pot. French fries with burger on the double. That customer always gives me trouble. I worked at Cape Cod Hospital for quite a few years, many, 20, something like that. So I had observations that I created poems out of one. And this was one that came to me. one day, seeing so many different kinds of people. So here it is, faith in surgical daycare. It's 6 a.m. and the first arrivals for scheduled surgery line up at my station. They're tired and hungry, hurting and vulnerable, scared. I've seen all types of humanity pass through those doors. Young mothers with babies, tough guys, the deaf and the blind, middle-aged husbands and wives, the elderly with a spouse if they're lucky, a compassionate friend, or sometimes alone. In wheelchairs or crutches or walkers or handcuffs, all races, religions and cultures, Americans, Germans, Brazilians, Chinese, world citizens. They are united in a common faith. The doctor will heal them and they will be made well. All right. This one is about our children. And I think you'll understand it pretty quickly. It's called fingerprinting. Our fingerprints are on our children the moment they're conceived. From our DNA and diet to what we do or say. Then after birth, our views, our morals, our beliefs, and often what we wish they wouldn't learn, are stamped upon their thoughts along the way. They are fingerprinted by their friends, their teachers and the neighbors, salesmen, priests or rabbis, television shows and films. We have one chance to fingerprint our children with values for their lives. They cannot be erased, reconstructed, or replaced. Once imprinted in their minds, the fingerprints will stay with them a lifetime. And then this one, I call it parent night. And it's those nights when we have to go into the school and hear from the teachers and, the beginning of the year, understand what they're expecting of our children and that kind of thing. So I wrote this one. It was published in the Cape Cod Times, this one. Parent night. The 9th grade English teacher has Siddhartha eyes as he makes his case on parent night, pounding soft, chalky fingertips, emphasizing punctuation, sentence structure, completed homework, punctuality. We sit in students' desks, nodding, smiling, glancing at the clock, squirming like our children, listening for the bell. Right. Here's one, I made it up, it isn't really from experience or anything, but it's just called Boy. Boy, in puerile glory, racing forward, tumbling like clothes in the dryer, faster than the speed of light. Superman with rumpled hair, smudged chin, eyes that dart, arms spin. No time to rest. One moment here, there, and the next. Skids to a landing, bumps into walls, soars over railing post, falls, sails down, digs under couch, unearths treasure chest, pearls. She thought we're lost. Then triumphantly with a peck, flings the strand around his mother's neck. Trying to capture that feeling. All right, I'm gonna say a few more that are serious. This one, I put an epilogue. Epilogue is the one that comes after.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Here it says, written on behalf of all writers who are censored and persecuted for exposing tyrants. Censure. They have not hung me with the other poets up against the wall, but the invitation opens like a wide smile and swallows me. Words rise and burst about my head, filling me with trepidation, fear, and dread. My fingers hold each other tensely, for they must be still. In this darkness, I mustn't make a racket, scratching with a feathered quid. All right. Cape Cod Life. This one is printed in the, from the farther shore, which was put together by the Bass River, Press. And it was, there was a call for poets that had anything to do with Cape Cod who lived here or who live here. You know, or who came every summer or whatever. So over 1,000 poems arrived and the judges chose 100 something. And both my husband and I made the cut. So I was very happy. All right, Cape Cod Life. Cape Codders who live by the sea and look at stars, breathing salt air, painting pretty scenes of windblown hair, aren't the Cape Codders who sleep in cars and never see the sea for necessity of keeping themselves fed or finding their child a bed, and not enough time in the day to while away and sing of its charms as they seek any jobs to buy clothes and fuel to keep warm. So it's just another side of Cape Cod life. A lot of people who come here on vacation don't really realize that. Okay, so you know how different smells, different scents remind you of places that you've been? So I wrote this poem, Carry Me Back, which really takes me very much through my life. So, carry me back. The fragrance of sweet-scented cigars lifts me in the rickety elevator to my first job on the 17th floor at a Philadelphia insurance company, hired by 2 old men who puffed inexorable smoke into the building's walls. A spray of white shoulders, and that slutty senior high school girl appears who drenched daily in the pungent stuff, sending a message to all that she is in the halls. A sniff of Jean Latte, and I'm at college, my sorority sisters bathing in it as we powdered and splashed. A whiff of scotch, and I'm doubled over the toilet bowl in my boyfriend's upper crust apartment. Essence of rose petals flies me over oceans, cities, plains to Israel on pilgrimage to holy places. And bougainvillea sends me straight down to Bahamas, where we lived 3 months awaiting work visas to teach. My mother is emerald, the oriental perfume permeating her trousseau of silks and satins that became my dress-up clothes when I acted out movie stars, nuns, cowgirls, and queens. Give me the scent of tobacco on the pocket of a shirt, and I'm back on my father's lap, cradled in his arms as I cried, for whatever reasons little girls cry. His pell-mells the aroma of a loving dad forever. Here's one of the ones I've written about age, which, you know, comes pretty easily to now. Um. It's called Clear Eyes. Perhaps age grants sight of sunsets more lovely, though there were always sunsets, of luscious scruffy bushes washed in watercolor, of a tiny broken shell blown beneath a fence, once swelling on a wave, or the last rose bending crippled on its stem. These I see now, clear-eyed, no distraction. I contemplate and sip each draught to slake the thirst of youth in haste, who could not stop to quench or taste in fitful quest for truth. Oh, I grew up going to confession as a Catholic, young Catholic girl. And so I wrote one poem about that experience. And it's called Confession. Bless me, Father, for I have sinned. The confession begins. The confessional is narrow with a hard bench where you kneel. The priest slides the screen door open with a bang. Now you are to whisper in his ear childish sins you've committed. It's rehearsal for the times later on in life when real sins have come to pay their dues. In serried lines, and there's a little preview at the beginning, a little quotation from Abdu'l-Baha. And it says, this day is the day of union, the day of the ingathering of all mankind. I am standing on the shoulders of my ancestors. They have formed the foundation for my evolution. All the women back through my family line have brought me to this age, this life, this time. Great-great-grandmothers to grandmothers, then to my mother, walk with me as I pass their lifeblood to my daughter, granddaughters, their daughters, until there are no daughters. I don't forget the fathers, but the teaching, tenderness, traits, and tales those women planted in my soul now flow through me to flower in my spirit. And the essence of my being, my longings, my beliefs, sprung from the soil of my past, I will hand down to my kin, so humankind may live in harmony, bringing us together as we walk in serried lines. And I don't know, sometimes people don't know what serried means. And it's that linking of elbows together as you walk very closely, holding on to each other. Let's see. I'm trying to liven it up here, but I see that a lot of my poems are not that lively. Okay. Well, they reflect my life. That's all I can say. All right, I'll read last summer's flowers. All right. Stripped bare by winter's batter, last summer's flowers provide the matter for cradles to hatch baby birds. I watch the mothers snap dry geranium stems, then methodically transport them to build their nests. I'm glad I'm not the type of gardener to denude my flower boxes at the end of summer. I like spying on chipmunks and squirrels as they pick around foraging for their winter stores. Then comes spring, The robins and wrens recycle what was last year's feast for the eye as scraps for practical use. Birds giving thanks for chaff from my garden. And let's see. I can't remember if that one was published, but this one in another place, but tomato plant was, this was in the Cape Cod Times. Poetry page, tomato plant. The harvest of this summer's quarantine, a tangible pleasure. It's the first fruit I've grown in my 70 years. I cradle the pot like a baby from porch to kitchen to capture the sun. Water and speak to it with loving encouragement. It listens and bears first red, then when there is no longer ample sunshine to make it blush, green tomatoes. I pluck the largest, gracefully shaped tomatoes to slice and fry, enhancing my dinner with luscious umami. Some smaller ones line up along my windowsill to ripen. Pungent aroma rises from the leaves when picked, as if to say, ouch. It's grown tall over the summer like schoolboys do. It yields such delight from most all my senses. I wish I could hear it grow in the silence of the night. Yeah, I have a few list poems that kind of just list things, and this one is called Quiet Pleasures. Watching cattails blowing in the breeze, driving through autumn's blazing trees, passing walls made with rocks and stones, licking ice cream cones, seeing a sunset anywhere, washing my hands for prayer, tasting rich coffee in a cup, having my love there when I wake up, reading in a comfy chair, touching a newborn's hair, taking a nap on a rainy day, sculpting with clay. A handwritten letter addressed to me, invited to a friend's for tea. Knitting a gift as a surprise, looking into my dear's kind eyes. Showering with scented soap, eating grilled cheese and tomato soup. Husband massaging my tired feet, slipping between clean sheets. But of all life's quiet pleasures, by far the best, nursing my babies at my breast. And there's another one that I wrote that's called Moments, and that one, there's also a list of things that I like. Moments. Petals pressed between pages, weedy tendrils shifting in a breeze, kelp drying on dunes, bleached sheets hanging on a line, humpback whales rising, vibrant kites against the sky, flaming autumn leaves, rocks dashed by angry waves, sun sinking behind mountain, paint speckled on a fence, curls cascading down a child's cheek, smooth stones skimmed across a pond, saxophones, sultry moans, homeless man's coffee-stained shirt, scent of mother's lipstick, damp monastery walls, light streaming through windows, hand washing in warm water, kneeling in penitence, counting beads through fingers, wisps of cool, sweet air, bells calling to supper, boys shouting, "In a minute," clearing the table, shaking out the tablecloth. Anybody have anything they want to say or ask or? All right.
I don't know if it's too personal, but I was wondering about the poem you wrote that brought you and Tom together.
Oh,
Is that the
sure,
first
I could read that, yeah, it's called That One. Look it up, because I'm really fond of it. It's, it's, uh. It's very personal, you know, but in a sense, it's just the most wonderful story as far as I'm concerned. It's the proof of the power of poetry.
Right.
Yes, so for those who are not in the room here, say that, I worked in surgical daycare at Cape Cod Hospital. And, I made lots of observations. Now, this was particularly at a time when I was divorced. There was a 4-year period that I was, you know, alone and trying to learn from my past, the things that I learned in 2 marriages. And so I started thinking about what qualities I was really looking for, and I wanted to manifest them in my life. So I wrote this poem. And then I'll tell you what happened. That one. At my work in the surgical unit, I see couples, lots of couples. Couples who've been together for a long time, or maybe not so long. I observe little things, signs and touches, jokes and laughter, annoyances, curtains, disparagement. I make note of the ones I want and don't want for my life. I see men who can't get away too soon when dropping off their wives for surgery. See the men who pace and worry and can't wait to go in to see their wives before and after major and sometimes very minor surgeries. I feel envious when a man is sweet, tender, caring, and doesn't seem to notice anyone else but the woman he is with. I want that. I want that man who can see only me, who sees into me, who sees with me, confides in me, rejoices with me, cries with me. I want those fingers intertwined with mine, that love breath on my face, that gentle pressure where I hurt, those eyes that search my face for how I feel. I want that for me, that man, that one, that one. So that was the first time in January of 2014, when I read the poem in public. I had just written it. And there was a huge crowd there, actually, at St. Christopher's Episcopal Church in Chatham. There were 4 of us, 3 men and me. And I had read a few poems, but you know, this one. Well, this man, who I had seen at one of the poetry workshops a few weeks before, but didn't really get a chance to talk with him, but I had noticed him. I thought he had a wonderful face. I loved his voice. I loved his poem. And one of the women told me that she thought he said he was going to come to my reading. But I didn't read it for that reason. I just read it because I wanted to try it out in public. Well, anyway, after the poetry reading, I ended up talking to him in the library, in the foyer of the church. He was standing and he was looking at paintings, so I went up to him. And I was so pleased that he had been there, and we started talking. And that's basically the beginning of our love story. We've been married 10 years now. But later on, I found out that he thought, when I was reading that poem, how wonderful it would be to be with a woman who feels that way. Yeah. And so both of our wishes came true. Thank you for asking. Thanks. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna just read some of the ones that I really thought I should read today. I mean, those were some of them, but I love this one. It's really special to me. You know, when you have all kinds of reels, home movies from your youth or whatever, And you don't want to lose them, so you have them transferred to DVDs. So that's what this is about. It's called Reels. After dinner and dessert, we settled down to watch home movies, transferred for preservation from reels to DVDs. I relived my early years of marriage and first child, a happy boy, forever rolling down the dues. Grandparents appeared, glancing with smiles at the camera, but it too soon turned onto vistas of waves or trees and sky. My mother with child walking, but she'd flit just ahead or to the side or retreat behind the lens. I willed the camera to hold on her face, to grasp her thoughts from back then, or frame a close-up of her young, smooth skin. Too quickly it passed over to capture instead a mountain that will ever be there, or parades with strangers in forgotten towns. But the faces of family and friends, so many now gone. My breath caught and choked, tears spilled as ones once loved slipped past. And that night, my sons laughed with me hard, watching home movies of fleeting years and lives gone by. More. Um, All right, maybe 5 minutes. This is tribute to my mother. I didn't put my glasses on, which I always realize that after I start reading, and then I don't want to break it up to go find them. So that's why I occasionally stumble. All right. Tribute to my mother. As a child raised on dad's low income, my mother's tuna casseroles were often served, especially during Lent. My fondness for those casseroles I attribute to my creative mother. I like the challenge of nothing left in the refrigerator to pique my interest. I find bits of onion, dried up mushrooms, soggy celery, a lingering clove of garlic, container of condensed soup, leftover green beans, saltines, a wedge of butter broth made from the seeds and stalks of vegetables, or roasted chicken bones, a can of tuna skulking behind baked beans on the shelf, and opened packages of noodles. With some sauteing, seasoning, and baking, the concoction arrives on the table lit with candles, adorned with gleaming goblets, cloth napkins in their rings, to be scooped onto spotless plates. And the final touch, a nod to mother's flair to meet my father's taste for something sweet, a dollop of grape jelly on the side. You're making a face. We absolutely loved that. Yeah, you know, I don't know if it's a New Jersey thing or a Philadelphia thing.
Jelly with tuna noodle casserole.
Oh, yeah. A grape,
Kind of like some cranberry sauce on the side.
Oh, yeah, yeah, that's so funny. Yeah, no, that was like a big treat. Salmon casserole too. That really definitely called for it.
Jelly with salmon casserole.
Oh, yes.
Oh, man.
See, you learned something
That's
new.
pretty cool.
All right, and just to give honor to my father, this is called Memorial Day dessert. Dad telling more stories, pushing back from the table, full, relaxed, youthful, though gray streaks in Bates' hair. Remembering fellow Marines bombed just as he left the gully to get more ammunition. War stories for dessert from my purple-hearted dad. How close he came to a flag and a grave in place of coffee and a piece of cake. speaking of my father, this one also mentions him. This is called Meeting God. At age of 5 on the Jersey shore, my playful father placed me in a rubber tube to float with him in the ocean. A huge wave rushed at us and forced the tube to break his hold. I slipped away. I spilled deep under a wave, plunging down in the green, grainy sea, gulping and gasping for air, until I saw a light beyond my grasp. In my being, I sensed it was the Lord. I was calm and unafraid. Then, in a sudden surge, a wave tossed me onto the sand. My father held me as he never had before. Ever since, I have been reaching for that promised glimpse of light, the light of God, through every test, on every shore. Oh, I'm gonna leave you with one more. So, do you all remember James Dean?
Oh, yeah.
So I was actually in a play called Come Back to the 5 and Chime, Jimmy Dean, and I played Mona, the girl who was obsessed with Jimmy Dean and had posters all over and, you know, and she told stories about him. Anyway, I can't remember much about the play, but it was definitely, the focus was Jimmy Dean. So I wrote this poem, but this was pretty recent, I wrote it. It's called Speed. I would have told James Dean, slow down, if I'd have been his girlfriend and a passenger in his car. If I'd have been going to that race with him, I'd have said, Jimmy, you'll have plenty of time to go fast when you're on the racetrack. Just go at the speed limit, you hear? Because I want to get there too and be with you. Jimmy loved me. He hated to make me mad. He'd have slowed down. He'd have made it to that race. He'd have won with a trophy in his hands. He'd have blown me a kiss and smiled, and then when I ran to him, he'd have thrown his arms around me and said, thanks, Judy, I couldn't have done it without you. Jimmy Dean, oh Jimmy Dean, you were only 24 when you sped through death's door. You needed a girl who cared, like me. Thank you.
Thank you for your
Appreciate it. So those are all from Passion and Provocation. Selected poems by Judith Partelow. And I just went over to Barnes and Noble to see if they have it, and they do. They have it on the shelf, and they had a couple of books on order, which was very happy to hear. And of course, Amazon has it. Other bookstores, there's an ISBN on the back, so people can order it from the ISBN. They can just go to any bookstore and ask, you know, for this, and the bookstore will be able to order it. A friend of mine in Canada ordered it in that way. But anyway, I do hope you enjoy it. If you read it and that you have enjoyed that reading. So thanks so much for coming.
Judith, is this your first published book then?
No, I actually published 2 chapbooks, the little ones,
Yeah.
self-published, and one is A Woman's Heart, which
Yeah.
after I put together that chapbook, I created a play out of my poetry, also called A Woman's Heart. And then the second chapbook is called Carry Me Back, A Woman's Life in Poetry. And that comes from that poem I read to you called Carry Me Back, about the smells, the scents.
Yes.
So I have those, and they're very small, and I only have a couple of those left, but I decided that I really wanted a much more inclusive collection. And so a lot of the poems that were in those are in this book. And this one was actually published by Atmosphere Press. So you can also go to Atmosphere Press and look for it. You're so inclined.
And you're doing a lot of readings too.
Yeah, I'm trying to, you know, let people know about it. And actually, at Snow Library on September 21st, I'm doing a reading with a woman called Miriam Levine. And she's very well published and has received a lot of honors for her poetry. And I was looking at her poems, and I think we really approach a lot of the same subjects. And so I think it'll be a nice collaboration that day. And I'm really looking forward to it. It was kind of her to let me read with her, because she at first had the reading for herself, but then when Snow Library wanted me to come and do a reading, they said, well, what about reading with this woman? And I said, well, please get her permission. And thankfully she said yes.
Where is that library?
It's in Orleans. It's right across the street from the huge post office parking lot. It's a lovely library, so. And anybody who's looking at this, September 21st of 2024 is what I'm talking about. I always wonder how old.
Yes,
You know, so anyway, thank you so much, so much.